Okay, so let's get straight into it. Our source material today starts with a really alarming statement.
Yeah, this fear that's mentioned that if Israel couldn't defend itself, it might actually lead to another Holocaust.
It's a stark way to begin, and it throws us right into the deep end of what we need to talk about today. This reported rise in anti-Semitism.
And specifically among younger people, it seems.
Yeah.
Plus, this linked concern about well, a lack of basic knowledge about the Holocaust itself.
Exactly. And the source we're digging into is a video from De Telegraph. It focuses right on this trend in the Netherlands.
Right, it sort of investigates the connections, doesn't it, between rising anti-Semitism, maybe gaps in education about the Holocaust, and, well, you can't ignore the impact of what's happening in the Middle East.
And a key part of the video, which I found interesting, follows a group of college students actually visiting Auschwitz.
Yeah, they're grappling with these exact issues, trying to understand it all.
So that's our goal for you listening. We want to go beyond just the headlines here.
Try to get a more, nuanced look at the history and the current worries.
It's a tough topic, sensitive, definitely, but hopefully we can bring some clarity.
Okay, so where do we start? That knowledge gap seems pretty central in the video.
It does. There's an interviewee who basically says young people know less and less about the Holocaust.
And they mentioned that specific story, right? The student who didn't know what International Holocaust Remembrance Day was.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite striking, isn't it? Makes you wonder why.
Well, the video presents it as a sort of recent and worrying thing.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, when we say anti-Semitism,
Right, good point. We mean prejudice or hate directed at Jews because they're Jewish.
and the Remembrance Day obviously commemorates the 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators. Basic, but maybe not basic enough anymore.
That anecdote really hits home the student not knowing. Is it like schools changing focus? Or is the history just too big, too distant, maybe?
Could be a mix of things.
Yeah.
But the video uses this to ask, okay, how do you teach this? How do you convey the sheer horror?
Yeah. Which leads into that student trip to Auschwitz. They're looking for answers there.
And the video really captures how different it is being there, compared to just seeing numbers on a page.
That physical presence, it seems to make it real in a way statistics just can't.
Totally. You see the students sort of wrestling with the reality of it, the industrial scale of the killing. It's visceral.
Absolutely. And from that very personal, intense experience, the video then zooms out to the specific Dutch context during World War II, which is devastating.
The numbers are staggering. 107,000 Jews deported from the Netherlands.
And so few came back. The video makes this really crucial point. No other Western European country had such a high percentage deported.
It really makes you stop and ask why. Why was it so bad
It's a
there?
tough question. And the video points towards, well, Dutch complicity.
Yeah, it mentions the really efficient registration system they had for Jews.
And this phrase, institutional willingness, like the local authorities actively participating.
That map they mentioned, the Stipping Cart in Amsterdam.
It's chilling. Literally mapping out where Jewish people lived using statistics. It shows how systematic it was.
Horrifying. And you see the impact on the students in the video when they're at Auschwitz.
Right, facing that wall, the wall with the names of the 100,000 Dutch Jews deported and murdered.
The interviewee describes it 12 meters long, just covered in names. Imagine seeing that.
It must bring the scale home in such a powerful, awful way. Confronting that reality has to change how you understand it.
And this history, the deportations, plus the fact that, as the video notes, there was a long silence about it afterwards.
Yeah, it wasn't really openly discussed until the 90s, the Netherlands' dubious role, as the video puts it.
That delay in facing the history, it must have affected how people understood it, how it was taught, or maybe not taught.
And that ties into another painful point. The video raises the return after the war.
Oh, right. For the few who survived and came back, it wasn't exactly a warm welcome.
Finding their homes occupied by other people, just unimaginable.
The video talks about Oudzier old wounds, a deep lingering pain from that time.
So you have this incredibly dark historical backdrop in the Netherlands, and then the video connects it to today.
Exactly. Which makes the current rise in anti-Semitism feel even heavier, maybe.
The video uses the term unadulterated Jew hatred and mentions that incident in November 2024, the ordinary Jew hunt.
Yeah, presented not as isolated things, but like a pattern, an upward trend. Which again begs the question, why now? What's driving this?
And almost inevitably, the video brings in the Middle East conflict.
Right. It mentions that some people see the rise in anti-Semitism as how do they put it, a logical reaction to Israel's actions.
That framing logical reaction feels really problematic, doesn't it? Doesn't that almost excuse it?
It's a dangerous line to walk because it risks blurring that vital distinction.
Between criticizing a government's actions, the state of Israel, and hating Jewish people. They're not the same thing.
Absolutely not. And the video does stress how particularly painful it is to see this happening in the Netherlands, given that specific history we just talked about.
The video also touches on some maybe deeper societal things.
Like anti-Semitism never really going away, just
Mhm.
maybe bubbling under the surface.
Yeah, and how it tends to get worse or more visible anyway during tough economic times.
And then there's social media. You can't ignore that.
The video suggests it's like an accelerant, right? Spreading anti-Semitic ideas much faster, especially maybe during lockdowns like COVID.
Seems plausible. More isolation, more time online maybe.
Okay.
And it explicitly notes an increase since October 7th.
So you have these different factors kind of swirling together: historical baggage, current conflicts, economic stress, technology.
And the video gives us a glimpse of the challenges for educators trying to deal with this, these primary school teachers.
Right, trying to talk about really complex stuff with young kids.
They talk about how hard it is.
Yeah.
Kids might not have the background, or they might bring in things they've heard at home, biases.
You get the sense they're really trying to tread carefully, encouraging critical thinking, asking kids about their own views if they even feel they can form a view yet.
It sounds incredibly difficult. Balancing education with sensitivity, especially with young minds.
Which then leads to this idea of conflicting realities that the video talks about.
Yeah, this experience of talking to some young people about Israel and Gaza, and it's like, facts don't get through.
They seem to have this fixed view. Israel is committing genocide. Its existence is the problem. Full stop.
And the video highlights how hard it is to bridge that gap. These totally different realities, it calls them. How do you even start a conversation?
It brings us right back to that link the video suggests between knowing the history and, well, avoiding hate.
The idea that if you don't understand the Holocaust properly,
You're more likely to make these really harmful, inaccurate comparisons with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
exactly. The lack of knowledge makes it easier to draw false parallels to minimize the Holocaust's uniqueness.
It suggests that deep historical understanding is almost like a bulwark against those dangerous comparisons.
Yeah, knowing the specifics, the context, the intent, the systematic nature of the Holocaust shows how different these situations are, despite the suffering in both, obviously.
Without that knowledge, the video implies misinformation fills the gap, and maybe anti-Semitism gets hidden behind political talk.
And finally, the video tackles that slogan, from the river to the sea.
A hugely contentious phrase. The video is very direct in its interpretation.
It says it's heard as an explicit call for the eradication and expulsion of Jews from that land.
Equating it to incitement to genocide, that's strong language.
And it highlights the distress this causes, especially for Jews in the Netherlands. It's not abstract for them.
The video stresses that hearing it chanted feels like a direct threat, a call for their elimination from the region.
It really shows how words can be weapons, doesn't it? How political slogans can carry deeply anti-Semitic weight, whatever the speaker claims their intent is.
So wrapping up our look at this detelegraph video, a few key things really stand out for me.
Definitely. This documented rise in anti-Semitism in the Netherlands. That's one.
The worrying lack of Holocaust knowledge, particularly among some young people, that's two.
3. The really tangled, difficult relationship between the Middle East conflict and how anti-Semitism manifests.
And fourth, maybe the most crucial takeaway, how important historical understanding is, to fight prejudice.
Yeah, it all leads to a pretty heavy question for you, listener, to maybe think about.
Given everything we've discussed, the Dutch history, the current trends, what actually works.
How do we foster real understanding? How do we stop history from, well, repeating in dangerous ways?
What's the role of education, of dialogue, of, critical thinking, especially when reality seems so far apart?
It's not easy. There are no simple answers here.
No, definitely not. And look, this deep dive, it's really just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. We'd really encourage you to keep exploring this yourself.
Read more about the Holocaust, try to understand the Israeli-Palestinian conflict from, multiple viewpoints. Stay aware of how anti-Semitism looks today.
Staying informed, thinking critically, engaging thoughtfully. It sounds cliche maybe, but it feels essential, doesn't it?
It really does, especially on issues as important and as sensitive as this one.